Can y'all hear me now? Child. Already starting off crazy. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture. And today I wanted to review Deliverance. It's the Lee Daniels movies that came out on Netflix. I wanted to review it just to give my thoughts on it. What did y'all think about this movie? Put it down there in the comments. So let's do a little housekeeping first. If uh you want to support the channel. I'm all bewildered today. You want to support the channel? You can hit that like button. Also subscribe. And once you subscribe, you'll be open to a plethora of movies and television series that I have reviewed. If you want to support this channel monetarily, the Cash App is rolling down at the bottom. You can do super chats because we are live now, or your memberships are also available. So let's get into this movie. Now, let me pull up my trusty IMDb, child. And because I waited to review this movie because I had some thoughts, and I watched it 1.5 times. And I'll explain that 1.5 times in a minute. But I watched it 1.5 times, and I came up through a realization. So let me share my screen really quick. We're just going to go to IMDb really quick. Let them talk about the movie. Now, The Deliverance is a movie that was directed by Lee Daniels. I believe he's also the producer as well. And basically, this movie is loosely based on a true story. The director was Lee Daniels. The writer is David Cogshell and Elijah Bynum. It stars Sandra Day, Glenn Close, Anthony B. Jenkins. It also stars Anjanou Ellis, Omar Epps, and a host of other people that it stars. We'll just get down here really close. Monique, Miss Lawrence, and then we have the children that are starring in this movie as well. So let's just let me stop sharing this IMDb. Let's talk about this movie. Now, I wanted to just read through you this People article that talks about the reasoning behind this movie, and it's based off a true story. Uh, this article is from People. It was written by Samantha Stutzman, and it talked about it. Asked, is the Deliverance based on a true story? And it is about the haunting of a woman from Indiana. Let's get down here. Uh, The film, which it began streaming on Netflix on August the 30th, is inspired by the haunting of Latoya Ammons and her family. So she moved into a rental home in Gary, Indiana, and then after she moved into this home, a whole bunch of strange stuff started happening to her and her children. Uh, Latoya's mother, Rosa Campbell, saw shadows of a man pacing in front of their living room. The kids were acting strange. Latoya was acting strange. They sought counsel from religious leaders, and they also. But what really made it stand out, I guess, is because she got involved in the CPS system and all that, and they started seeing things, and they started seeing the children do certain things like that, and so they realized that she was not making anything up. I'm not going to go through her story. You could definitely go through this People article and you can go through this story, but I wanted to go over my take on the Deliverance. I don't want to call it the movie. I want to go over my take on that, and here's my take on that. It felt like to me that I was watching two separate movies, because when you hear, let's drop some wax on me some kind of way. When you hear the way it's described in the People article, and I think that there is a synopsis on IMDb, I was expecting so much horror. Now, mind you, I am not a horror person. There's no way in the world that you're going to get me to watch a horror film. You've got to do some convincing. And even if I do am convinced to watch this horror flick, I'm doing it in the daytime. So I have enough time during the day to purge all of that stuff. So basically, again, the plot. So this time, the characters are changed. Uh, Andra Day is Ebony. She is the mom. She is playing the mom in this story, and Glenn Close is Alberta, and she is playing the grandmother in here. Now, I understand there's some controversy in regards to Glenn Close's role in here, particularly from Lee Daniels, who made a statement like there's an Alberta in the fabric of the Black community. That was very bodacious, but we'll just, that was a very bodacious statement. But what I will say, where I live at, there is a particular city in the state of Alabama that I live at that you see a lot of not necessarily Albertas, but we do see in this particular city that there are a lot of white women who have procreated with Black men, and these women are with these children, and they're with their children. Some of them are with their fathers, some of them are not. But you do see this type of, not at the age Alberta is, pretty much around. And I guess if Alberta is being portrayed to be in her, what, her 60s, because she's still out here showing it at, swinging it low and dropping it wide. So I'm assuming that she's portraying a woman in her 50s or in her 60s. So yeah, you would probably see women around my age, this, so grandmother. So yes, you'd probably see a couple, but I wouldn't look at this as like in the fabric. There's not, I don't see that many. You may see them, I don't see them, because 9 times out of 10, these women, and I'm keeping it a bean, they don't hang around a lot of Black women. They just don't. They have their core. If they're hanging around Black women, 9 times out of 10 is because they're hanging around the aunts, the aunties, and the grandmothers, or the mother, or of the children that they have. But 9 times out of 10, I don't usually see them hanging around too much. Now, it could be I'm a Gen Xer, so I don't see them hanging around. So you all let me know, millennials. You all let me know, uh, Gen Zers. You all let me know, Gen Alphas, if you see this more prevalent than I do, because I don't see it very prevalently in my circle. I don't see it prevalently. I may see it doubting out here and there, but I don't see Albertas like that in my thing. But again, this is loosely based on the true story, so we'll give him the artistic license that he wants to be able to have to tell this story. I will tell you, me looking at this story and reviewing this, as I watched it, it was a very compelling story about a mother with her children. She being, as far as what we understood, because they didn't come out and just say it, we just had to make certain assumptions. At that, being a drunk, being abusive, also being separated from her husband. From what we understand in this movie, that her husband was over in Iraq. We see, and then the dynamics between her and her children, and then we get to see the dynamics between Ebony and her mother, Alberta. And there's some kind of truce going on between Alberta and Ebony, in regards that apparently when Ebony was younger, Alberta abused her or neglected her. And she did not waste, she never missed an opportunity to allow Alberta to understand and know that. But however, she did still have love for her mother, albeit that she didn't come out and blatantly say it. It was the things that she did, like paying for her mother's cancer treatment, and her mother didn't know. And this was part of the reason why she's in such a financial mess, because she knows that Medicaid stopped paying for that facility years ago. She knew her mother continued to love to go to that facility. And so she was ending up paying the money, which has put her behind on her car note and all kinds of stuff. Plus, Ebony is running from CPS because she doesn't want them to take her children. So it's a whole lot of dynamic. That story within itself was compelling. And as we kept going, watching Alberta move through with the church, how her interactions with the church, and how that is directly from her cancer treatment. She's gotten closer to God. But she's still Alberta. She's still out here flirting and doing whatever she wants to, because she done picked up the orderly at the cancer treatment center. You see her do that, and you see her trying to be inspirational to her children. But Ebony is bucking that, because Ebony grew up one way, and that's the way she grew up, and she knows that's not going to be. She don't want that kind of stuff around. That story was compelling. The story between Ebony and the CPS worker, how they have tension and stuff like that between her and the CPS worker. Those were very compelling stories. Even Alberta's relationship with the children was a very compelling story. And as we went through watching this story come out, we get flashes of the horror. Because honestly and quite frankly, I will tell you the truth. It's like we're watching two different movies and it was like the horror part came towards the end of the movie, and it was almost like they just dumped it in there just for the sake of, oh, I forgot, this movie is about this haunting house. But as this story went on, that was such a slow build. It was so slow, and then all of a sudden it was just thrown at us. Because I thought when we saw Ebony sitting in the kitchen and all the flies and stuff like that coming through, I thought, oh, well, she's getting ready to investigate. So she finna go, I was screaming, don't go in the basement. Child, she didn't go in that basement. And I was like, at that moment, the horror thing was over, because it's like, if you're gonna make it like a true horror film, she's supposed to be investigating why all this stuff is going on. Why do you have flies and stuff like that? And I couldn't have stood it. Just a little side note, just to tell you a story. So there was a point in time where I was doing the composting, and you know how you can go and you can buy these little cute little compost buckets. You just have to put this kitchen scraps in it, put the little stuff on top of it, close it up. It had a little thing. It was all well and cute. We were doing very well. It sat there for a little while, and then you take it out and you dump it into your big composting thing. All cute, all everything. Well, I ended up was doing that, didn't have any problems, didn't have any problems with the smell, didn't have any problems with anything, until I left and went on a trip and completely forgot to empty this kitchen compost bucket. Completely forgot to empty it. Went away for like 3 or 4 days. Didn't think anything of it. Got back to the kitchen. Started, I was making a salad. So had all those little salad scraps and stuff like that. I had put them over here on the corner because I was going to put them in the bucket. Baby, when I opened that bucket, do you not understand the amount of fruit flies that flew out of that bucket? It was so many, the room went dark. It went black. And before I knew what was going on, my house was inundated with fruit flies. You talking about the worst. And I had to go to, trying to get rid of these fruit flies. I opened the door. A good multitude of them, came out with me because I took the compost thing out and put it. But there were so many fruit flies in my house, y'all. If you'd have walked by my house and looked in the windowsill, the fruit flies were in the windowsill. The fruit flies were just flying on the television. Anywhere where there was light in my house, that's where you saw a multitude of fruit flies. So I had to go purchase one of those electric zappers that they have sitting outside. And kid you not, y'all, I put it on my table. I turned anything that emitted light in my house, I turned it off. And I left my house. I went to go stay with my parents. I came back maybe 12 hours later. That thing was so full. And I had to run it like that for at least a week just to get a multitude. And then I had to do the little spray stuff. So all of that to say is, when she opened that door and we saw all those CGI flies that she was supposed to be looking at, there is no way in the world that I would not have tried to get rid of those flies the next morning or whatever, because they went on 2 or 3 days with that mess until they called the exterminator to come down there and found out that there was a dead was it a cat or a rodent? I can't remember what it was, but a dead thing. And so I was thinking at that point, ooh, we're inching into this horror. We're going to start seeing stuff. Everything was just, the only person that we saw that was having issues was the little kid. I think his name was Andre. What was his name? Let me get his name right, y'all. Yeah, Andre. The only person that we were seeing any type of issues were with Andre. But here's the thing with that story, I didn't take too much interest in what was going on with Andre because I figured it was manifesting from the fact that they're moving all around trying to run from CPS. They're already part of CPS. And you also know that kids always have issues, stressors, and things like that with that. So his behaviors for me, honestly, and I will tell you, I'm a former social worker. So for me, honestly, those behaviors didn't seem odd until he started talking in that different type of voice. Because even when he went to the kitchen and he started drinking all of that milk, and then he went outside and he was walking and talking to himself, those behaviors could have been something different. He could have been a sleepwalker. He could, because I've dealt with children that were sleepwalkers. I've dealt with children that didn't sleep too well, and they were up in the middle of the night all the time, and then they were too sleepy at school because they had a lot of stressors going on. So that didn't bother me. And like I said, the horror part seemed like it was just thrown at us so quickly that you couldn't it was just like, okay, so they would have had a more compelling story if they would have weaved that horror in just a little bit better. It was like they did a really quick stitch of it. I wish they would have thought about weaving a sweater or something like that so they could have put that horror so then you couldn't almost tell. Because even when you talked about the professionals, because within the true story, the reason why it became so big is because the professionals, the social workers, the psychiatrists, the hospital staff, the police, and all of them, they saw these children do these types of behaviors. And it would have been wonderful if the dynamic would have been, she would have been interfacing with these different authorities, because I thought we were going to get it when they were talking about the bruises and the kids not knowing where those bruises were coming from. And for me, that was the biggest red flag. I wouldn't have left that house knowing that those kids had bruises, and those bruises could not be explained unless somebody came in there and we were doing an intervention or something to like that. See, all of those things, and we should have been able to see Ebony's uh frustration and stress behind dealing with the CPS and dealing with the police and knowing she's not doing any of these things. That would have been a more compelling story. But it seemed like the story was more about Alberta. And you all let me know if that was is because it seemed like the story was more about Alberta than more about this thing, because it all revolved around Alberta and her treatment, Alberta and her church, Alberta and all of these other things. It wasn't till to the end of this story of Deliverance that we got the horror part. So I will tell you this, the horror part, how it was thrown in, for me, that was straight trash. But the story about Ebony, her dynamic with her mother, her dynamic with her children, and all of that, those things were a more compelling story. That, I don't know, it's like this movie was written so quickly. They had this like true life story, and they were trying so quickly to write this story and put something out here. They missed something. Now, that's for me in the plot. Now let's talk about the actors and the actresses. Glenn Close acted her ass off. And Audra Day working against her, she held her own. I was very impressed how Audrey held her own up against Glenn Close, because Glenn Close was acting like a woman. She had never even, because I saw an interview where she said she didn't know anybody like this Alberta person, and she didn't know anybody that talked like Alberta. So she had to create this pretty much create this character by listening to other people. And I do like how they juxtaposed each other. I think that they did a great job with that. I listen, Monique is going to come in and she is going to body the role. And Monique did a very good job as a social worker. But is it me? Because you remember that last Lee Daniels movie? She was Precious Mama, and now she has switched roles, and now she was a social worker. And you remember all the problems that she had with Mariah Carey as a social worker? Is it just me? I thought that Lee Daniels could have made her Alberta. Anyway, But I guess maybe she didn't want that role because that would have been too much like Precious. But I kind of side-eyed that. I The young man that played Andre, let me just explain this to you. For him to have that type of role and have to do all of that stuff, he scared me. I was ready to go pick him up. Go pick him up. He scared me because he was changing his voices and the way he looked. You remember when his brother was choking him up under the water, and the way he came up and the way he looked. Oh baby, I look for good things for that young man who is that particular actor. Anthony B. Jenkins. I look for him to be good because, honey, that's just straight type talent for him to do that. For him to change those voices and to do all those things. Oh, honey, he was hot top tier. The daughter and the son. I do remember the son played on what is it? Stranger Things. They were okay. They weren't I just don't think that they had enough script for them. And I didn't like the fact that, the oldest brother, they went into these trances. And the only time you see these trances, you didn't even really see the trances. The only time that you really saw them or anything like that, they were at home. It would have been a more compelling story if we'd have seen them acting kind of weird when they were in school or acting kind of weird whenever they think. The only time we knew that they were quote unquote weird is when the corner boys threw a rock and hit him in the head. I just wish you had it's like you had this big huge steak and you had all the potatoes and the fixings and everything like that, and then you decided, you think everybody's thinking, oh, you finna grill, you finna make this steak and it's finna be good and succulent and juicy and everything like that. And then it's like you took the steak and you threw it in some water and you boiled it. I mean, it's still edible, but it just is not as appetizing. That's how this movie was to me. It wasn't bad. I'm not going to give it a very bad score, but it is just one of these movies that you had the steak, you had the potatoes, you had the sides, all the different types of sides, you had the right wine to go with it, you had your favorite dessert and everything like that. This story was so much given to you and you just decided to take everything and boil it. Like I said, it's edible, but it's just not pleasing. You can eat at it. And that's how I felt about this story of Deliverance. It was a story that, you can eat it, but I think it could have been so much more if we had had so much more interaction between the CPS. We had more actions because instead of us seeing Alberta in the at the cancer center flirting with the Omar Epps character. Omar Epps' character could have been a police officer that was coming back and forth to the home. Omar Epps could have been the principal at somebody's school and talking about that they're noticing these behaviors in these children. It was just so much more. And then Anjanou Ellis came in through. Now, I will tell you, I was very disappointed in her role as far as what she could have delivered. I really wish that instead of let me pull her name. What was her name? Y'all know the preacher woman. I can't think of what her name. I wish Anjanou Ellis's character was the preacher, and that is who Alberta went to when she started talking about the strange things. Because it was just like she just showed up out the blue. She didn't. She was. I'm sorry, Nathan. I didn't see you in here until you popped up right then. How you doing, Nathan Moore? So underused. And when she was moved in there, it didn't make it, it was like, what's the girl's name? She played on Why Did I Get Married? She always used to holler Marcus's wife, whatever her name, whatever her true name is. I can't think of what her name is right now. But I wish Anjanou Ellis would have been her pastor. And she went to the pastor, and the pastor first would fake her out, but then would say, hey, would come by the house to see us some things that are going on. And she could have been able to see some of these things that were going on. And you could have had the person that played the pastor be the assistant pastor and not believe that these things are happening, because again, that was another opportunity to talk about the church and people who believe in the supernatural, and the church and the people who just believe getting people butts in the seat so they can get that tithe and offering money. That was a whole nother part of that in self, that Alberta would have gone to that particular pastor, and that particular pastor tell her, no, I can't help you. And then that pastor says something to Anjanou Ellis's as a pastor and saying, oh, there's some issues that we were having, something like that. And then that would have been better explained, because Anjanou had a church as well. So why couldn't they have been sisters in Christ and gone to lunch together, and she could have explained some stuff, and it could have been something simple like, what house is she in? Because Anjanou comes in and gives us the whole backstory of the house, when that should have been gradually given to us. It just, I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here to tell you my review of Deliverance and what I thought. Tasha Smith, thank you. Tasha Smith, my review of Deliverance, as far as the plot went about the interactions between Alberta and her children and her grandchildren, the interactions between Ebony and her children, and Ebony against the world, enjoy it. When they put that horror in there, it just, and it was just what typical. You saw Ebony, fighting for her family. Anjanou tried to fight, and her character tried to fight, and she got the brakes beat off her. Then Alberta, that happened so quickly. I didn't even understand that she was gone. I really didn't understand. And whoever was their special effects person and put that makeup on Glenn Close to make her look like that when she was possessed by that demon, y'all ought to be ashamed. 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 Oh, y'all ought to be ashamed for that. But again, at towards the end, when we get into the horror, you see the social worker being scared out of her wits, because the boy gets out of the restraints, climbs up the wall, and then jumps towards her. The the doctor as well. And then towards the end, you see Ebony fighting for her family, finding her her will in Star Wars from her belief in God. Excuse me. And her and the demon get to fighting, baby. And that demon, towards the end, when Ebony is talking with the social worker, you see that demon whooped her every which way but loose, and it was a mess. And he went back down into the hole, and they moved out of that house, and that was the end of the story. But and even you didn't even, and that was another missed opportunity. You didn't make the house a character. I didn't even believe that it was, like I said, it was, everything was like when you pulled the cat out from under the thing, then it's like the house is not scary. It's just a dead cat wandered into the home, got caught down in the basement. And it's Bob's your mom, the uncle. And yes, that line was she put that he messy, so messy, so messy. That demon, that demon was very, very messy and had a mouth on it. I'm just telling you, that demon was messy and had a mouth on it. But again, what do y'all think about that? Thank you so much, Nate, for being here. I appreciate you. Thank to all the people that are watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. So out of 5 stars, I'm giving Deliverance 2.5. Because of the fact I thought that they're missing those other stars is because they squandered the opportunity to make the house the character. They squandered the opportunity to bring in other authority figures and other people. Like, we didn't see her with a best friend. We didn't see her with co-workers. We didn't really see, they were just like flashes. We didn't see that family interact with anybody else so that we can, so that they'll be able to tell us the story that they're acting weird. We didn't get to see that they were acting weird. All we saw is that the poor baby went to the hospital, and because he's talking crazy and all that other stuff. So we didn't get to see how the people in their universe were reacting to them about being weird. And like I said, the only way that we knew somebody was weird was when the corner boys threw the rock at Andre's brother. All right, people. Again, share this video if you care. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a kin, tell that helper that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.